The Pittsburgh Steelers have finally taken control over their QB situation with Aaron Rodgers. It's still not good enough. I'll explain later. And then Deshaun Watson is reportedly emerging as QB1 for the Cleveland Browns, along with Russell Wilson visiting the New York Jets. Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, football fans, and welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down for today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, like what you're listening to, regardless of the team that you root for, tune in to the NFL Central family for the sake of loving football and talking it. But hey, let's jump into the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers in their situation. The Steelers have taken control of the QB situation. I'll explain. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they place an unrestricted free agent tender on quarterback Aaron Rodgers. This is something that is rarely used, but it gives the quarterback the opportunity to accept a 10% raise from his 2025 salary, which was a little over $13 million. And the tender also grants the Steelers free agent compensation in the form of a 2027 pick if Aaron Rodgers decides to sign elsewhere. If he does not sign by July 22nd, the Steelers will own exclusive negotiating rights with Aaron Rodgers. Now, on one point, because this is a two-part thing for me, on one point, I look at the Steelers in this Aaron Rodgers situation as a way to say, all right, we've had enough. But then on the other hand, I look at it and I say, why do y'all keep going down this road and just constantly looking crazier and crazier as a historic franchise, Pittsburgh Steelers? It's just a slap in the face to all those Pittsburgh fans. Now, on one hand, you can go out there and you can say, hey, we don't really know what Will Howard is. We drafted another quarterback, but we don't necessarily know what he will be, and he's definitely not ready right now. At best, at least we'll remain competitive with Aaron Rodgers. Fair enough. But then there's the more logical side, in my personal opinion. If you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you want just 1 year of being relevant, or do you want 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 years of being relevant? And I know that's a double-edged sword, because on one hand, you could talk about, hey, Will Howard sat last year. If he does see time on the football field, he might not necessarily be ready at the moment. So I get it. But on one end, why do you want to constantly go through this cycle of waiting on Aaron Rodgers? Me personally, I think Aaron Rodgers has personally ran this course with trying to have demands and whatnot. And I think him wasting his damn time before telling anybody if he wants to remain in the NFL, he screwed up his opportunities. Let's talk about it. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you very well could have been in competition to go to the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm not going to go out there and act like the man had to decide on what he wanted to do with his future right after the season. But you want to keep playing these games, you missed out on potentially going to the Minnesota Vikings, and they now having a solution that could potentially be useful for them for the foreseeable future. So if Aaron Rodgers does elect to come back, I still don't see much coming out for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. I look at the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, they have a young coaching staff, but Lamar Jackson is still Lamar Jackson. Then I look at the Cincinnati Bengals and I look at Joe Burrow and how high-powered that offense is. And then I also have to include the moves that the Cincinnati Bengals added to their defense in free agency and in the draft, and they gotten much better. Then I look at the Cleveland Browns, who now hit on 2 drafts in a row, and now once they figure out their QB situation, could potentially be better than the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, what does one more year buy you when it comes to your QB situation? I'm going to give you respect for taking control over the QB situation with Aaron Rodgers and finally putting your foot down instead of getting smacked around like a rag doll. I'll give you credit for that. But then on the other end, if he does play this year, you're literally back to square one. Literally. You're literally back to square one, even if Aaron Rodgers plays this season. You may say, Will Howard is not ready. But he did sit on the bench last year and learn from Aaron Rodgers. Why not give him an opportunity to see what happens? And then if you're so bad, you get a high draft pick, and then you can draft another quarterback for the future. Seems like a double win to me. Because if Aaron Rodgers comes out and play, and let's just say for the sake of discussion, he wins 8-9 games, hell, what if he goes off and win 10 games? Now, instead of potentially having an opportunity with a bad year behind Will Howard or Mason Rudolph and maybe only winning 3 to 5 games, now you're winning 8, 9, 10 games. And that draft position now shifts from potentially top 7 to after the top 10, which makes it a lot harder for quarterbacks for you to draft. And you cannot bank on the rumors and the discussions coming out from college football about the quote-unquote good draft class that's supposed to be entering the NFL. You can't bank on that. This year in this draft, we were supposed to have Fernando Mendoza, Clay Kubnik, Buddy from Penn State, and a number other of quarterbacks, Ty Simpson, et cetera, that to enter this draft. Guess how many quarterbacks was drafted in the first round? 2. So you can't bank on those saying, because those quarterbacks who are supposed to be getting ready to come and set the NFL on fire could potentially crap the bed in their season in the NCAA. And then now you're stuck again. So while I give the Pittsburgh Steelers a lot of credit for how they handled this and finally put their foot down, still the process of them trying to figure out this QB situation, it's still stupid in my personal opinion. It's still not looking at the bigger picture in my personal opinion. It's still banking on a old ass Aaron Rodgers to try to help you accomplish a chip. And guess what? It's not happening. It's not. Why do you guys think Aaron Rodgers was booted from Green Bay? He was losing in the first round with home field advantage. I'll give it to him. He put on a solid season last year, but it was just solid, bro. It was just solid. He's not the savior. He's not. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers need to move on from Aaron Rodgers, give Will Howard an opportunity, and see what happens. But hey, we'll see what happens. Now, we switch gears and talk about Deshaun Watson emerging as QB1 in Cleveland. This is coming from Mary Kay Cabot for Cleveland.com. She said Deshaun Watson emerged for the Browns voluntary minicamp last week with an edge over Shedeur Sanders in the two-man quarterback competition and has the inside track to be named Browns QB1. Sources told them. Todd Monken hopes to declare or at least identify his starter by the end of Brown minicamp June 9th through the 11th, meaning Sanders has about 6 weeks to close the gap and try to overtake the former 3-time Pro Bowler, end quote. That is coming from Mary Kay Cabot. And I'll say this. I'm going to say this. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson. I'm not a believer. I'm not even going to hold you. When it comes to Deshaun Watson, I am no longer a believer like I was when he first went to Cleveland once he left Houston. Deshaun Watson clearly has regressed. Can he somehow revitalize his career? Maybe. I've seen Sam Darnold. I've seen Baker Mayfield. I've seen Geno Smith. Maybe he's next in line to revitalize his career. That can very well be true. But I come from the world to where actions speak louder than words. So if Deshaun Watson wants to prove anything, he has to show me. And I'm pretty sure there are others that are out there that will agree. He has to show us. Now, him beating out Shedeur Sanders, I think that's how it's supposed to go. He's the more experienced quarterback. He's going to be able to pick up the QB talk, the schematics a lot faster than now a quarterback going into his second year, Shedeur Sanders. But ultimately, I think, and I'm going to go out there and predict it right now, by mid-season, the Cleveland Browns will be starting Shedeur Sanders. I'm just going to go out there and predict it now. I don't believe in Deshaun Watson. If he goes out there and prove me wrong, I'll come back, load up the pod, and apologize. But until I'm shown otherwise, I have no belief in Deshaun Watson. That's just me. I have no belief. And this is how it's supposed to be. He's the guy that's getting paid a lot of money to be there. And obviously, the owner is going to try to get some type of return on his huge, huge investment that has been tanking since he entered the building. Simple. Nobody in their right mind believes that the owner was going to allow Shedeur Sanders to start over Deshaun Watson when that investment has caused the market to crash. Literally. Just so terrible. But, hey, I seen things happen in the NFL before. We'll see what happens with this situation, and we will keep you all informed. I made my prediction. You let me know how you feeling about it. Now, before we get up out of here, just want to touch briefly and remind you all that, let you all know that Russell Wilson has entered the chat. Russell Wilson has had a visit with the Jets. And honestly, I'm not mad at it. You got Geno Smith. You get Russell Wilson in the building. You did draft Cade Klubnik from Clemson. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad move to allow this young fella to sit for a year. And even if Geno has to miss a game, you can go ahead out there and start Russell Wilson for a couple games to kind of red shirt Cade Klubnik for the foreseeable, at least for this season, and then potentially have him starting for you later on. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football. And y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
This has